Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion video. And today, I am once again joined by DIMIZY from DIMIZY'S domain. He's come all the way over from his domain to talk with us, so please share him a warm welcome by pausing this video, going down to the description below, and clicking on that link because you're not going to want to miss everything that he brings to the table and all the stuff that he makes for you guys. So with that being said, DIMIZY, why don't you say hello to everyone listening?
I'm in a rage, a Super Saiyan rage. Hello, how are you? You're right.
Anyway, guys, we are going to be talking about today just basically a retrospective of Super Saiyan Future Trunks, or I guess just Future Trunks in general, and his reintroduction, long-awaited reintroduction into the Dragon Ball mythology. I guess you could talk about like major canon or real canon. I mean, who cares? And no one necessarily uses that word in this fandom anymore, so take it like you will. And whether or not, we've had some time to think about this. I mean, it's been months to think about this and basically how it went and how we were re-interacted to this type of concept, and was it the best idea? We saw the whole story through and through, and basically just that's it. Like, and DIMIZY, do you have any opening words about like what you think about Future Trunks coming back? Was it a good idea? Any other thoughts on that, man?
Okay, so first things first, we need to understand the fact that it was in episode 48 or around that time. Of course, it was a bit before that when it was announced, when we knew that we were going to get the Future Trunks saga or arc. Now, before that, we had a bit of nostalgia with Frieza, but at the same time, because the movie was so recent in our memory, it really didn't feel nostalgic. It was kind of a bore. However, the Future Trunks arc was the first pure dump of nostalgia. It literally did clog the toilet. It was so damn bad, but at the same time, it was so damn good because it was so refreshing and it was out of your system. And it was one of them ones where you see week by week it was getting praised every single episode. Well, most episodes people were saying, oh, best episode yet. But by the end, people were like, actually, I don't think this arc was that good. I disagree, but there was conflicting ideas by the end. And I will say one thing. Before that, we had, just look at the setting and not the theme, but just the feel of Dragon Ball at that time. Battle of Gods, the Resurrection of F, and the Universe 6 vs Universe 7 tournament. And the thing is, although they were in different settings, it did feel something similar to, there's not much tension. One thing that we did get with the Future Trunks arc, from the initial episode all the way to the end, was the Future Trunks timeline. That was a completely different offshoot from what we are used to from Dragon Ball Super thus far. It gave a very dark, gritty, tense theme to it, and I think from that alone, it really did introduce something completely different without Trunks there as well. Of course, Trunks was there, but the point being was, without adding Trunks to the mix, just the setting, the desolate future was just something so different, and then people were given it a lot of praise, and I think that is one reason for why it was a much needed dose of a big injection of nostalgia, but at the same time it really did give something really fresh. So it was fresh yet very old, and it's I like that. I really did like that and appreciate that.
No, like the one thing you mentioned there that I really liked was the fact that, yeah, they gave us basically a dump of nostalgia a year after this series basically began. And that's the weird part about all of this, is when you look at it in terms of, I guess, overall scope, I guess. It's like that's the way I'd look at it. When you look at it overall scope, these shows in terms of entertainment are brought back a lot for nostalgia. I mean, obviously they saw that there was a huge potential there with how Battle of Gods performed, and then how Fukkatsu no F performed worldwide. Just huge numbers across the board with both of those films, and super huge hype. So there was a lot of pushing power to bring it back, and then they decided to do a retelling, which a lot of people don't necessarily like. I completely understand why, and I understand that even more so for the Fukkatsu no F arc, but Battle of Gods arc is actually pretty good, and I'm actually looking forward to buying it on Blu-ray when it comes out. I honestly cannot wait to own Battle of Gods arc. I could leave or take the whole Fukatsu no F arc, but the Battle of Gods arc, and then the last tournament we saw with all of that was phenomenal. I can't wait to actually physically own it. And then once it gets to this particular part of Dragon Ball Super, it's going to be interesting to see how I feel because of this concept. Like, was this a good arc, and did it meet the need that needed to be met at this particular time in the series? And like you said, I think you had a good point there, is it was a nostalgia dump, and interesting concept, because one of the things, like I said, brings these things back is nostalgia, but at the same time, you don't want your entire series to be predicated on the concept of nostalgia. You want to basically get it done with. So they retold the original story. They introduced this kind of cool concept with the tournament and everything as kind of a filler arc or something to set up other future things like we've seen and we are seeing with the Tournament of Power. And then they gave us a 20, 25, 26 episode arc of just nothing but nostalgia, kind of bringing back so many different things that we had seen previously and basically shoving almost all these concepts that we've ever seen, ever introduced, any interesting thing we've ever introduced in Dragon Ball in one arc, and said, look, there you go, there's all your nostalgia you need, now let's move on to something new.
They even went further by, they said, okay, we'll give you nostalgia, we'll even give you your fan theories, and they gave us the evil Goku that everyone's been talking about. And that's something that people do overlook, and it's just the fact that with the nostalgia they gave fan service, because yes, they can be one in the same, but they can also be mutually exclusive. And with Goku Black and with Future Trunks, they were mutually exclusive. Both of them injected something completely different. They gave a new theme, they introduced a new set of ideas to Dragon Ball which we've not seen before, and that was the first instance of tension, which I know you liked a lot.
No, yeah, there are some really awesome situations, and look, I have never been a huge fan of Super Trunks, or Future Trunks, not Super Trunks, but Future Trunks in general. I don't necessarily like his character because every time we see him, just kind of, it is his character. Like, there's no other reason to introduce him. He's not someone who finishes or solves his own problems. He always relies on other people to help him, and then he just cries his way through it. And I completely understand that in terms of character development and everything else, but I've never really liked it. But at the same time, look, even if they plot convenienced him getting not only a new transformation that came out of nowhere, and also somehow knowing or being able to learn all of these techniques that Vegeta knew, or through a video being able to learn the demon containment wave, I definitely don't understand why every time I see Trunks fight in that arc, every time with Super Saiyan Rage and his transformation, everything he does in that arc, I'm just completely losing my mind, because that was epic. No matter what you want to say, no matter what you think about Trunks in general, those scenes are epic. He is a really cool character in terms of the fighting nostalgia. Bring me back to my childhood concept that Dragon Ball Super was trying to get throughout this entire saga.
I think another thing that people do, and we all need to remember, is the fact that, yes, nostalgia, and yes, certain things didn't make sense. But one of the things which was very, very good that didn't make sense was the inclusion of Mai. I think that the pairing of Trunks and Mai was once again something so fresh and something so 2016, 2017. I was like, okay, this feels like very, okay, Dragon Ball's trying to be a proper anime. They're trying to maybe tell a story. They're trying to actually, they're telling us something, and they're doing something which we haven't seen before in the past 48 episodes. And by doing that, and just the pairings, and it was very easy to resonate with Future Trunks. It was very easy to understand him. Yes, people would be like, oh yeah, I understood him from the Cell arc, and you know what? Most of the time, people never understood him because of the fact that it's been so long. It really has been so long, and we just learn about his character all over again and fell in love with his character all over again, or maybe fell in love with his character for the first time, knowing that we were rooting for him. And it's just what he stood for and the way he was behaving, and that's one of the things which was really enjoyable. And another thing is the fact that, as with all the guest voice actors in this arc, they were phenomenal. absolutely phenomenal, where you had Trunks screaming "My," he's crying. It really got to you, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, they are trying their best to be as emotional as possible, and it worked with Trunks. I don't know the voice actor's name, but hats off to you, mate. You smashed it.
No, I completely agree. Look, with everything that we saw in this particular arc of Dragon Ball Super, it's not that, personally, I don't necessarily think it's the best arc. I probably wouldn't even put it in my top 5, but when you add up like all of its individual parts without looking at the whole, it was totally worth it. The fact that, like you said, huge nostalgia, like, just dump on everyone, being able to kind of get through, okay, we gave you what you wanted for right now, let's kind of move on, and then it'll be a little bit more sporadic as we go on, especially with this particular tournament and what we've seen with basically Caulifla being the female Broly, or Kale, actually.
Yeah.
It's Kale. And if there are two, and that's probably going to be confirmed or not confirmed or something, who knows. That's when we're recording this video, so don't come at me, don't at me on that particular situation. But for what it's worth, it's like, it makes sense the way they actually did it, and at the time it didn't. And I think that's why we do these retrospectives, and that's why we talk about this after we've had a couple months to process it. It's like, what were they thinking? What were they doing? What were they trying to prove, or any of this? And when you look at it like this, the way we're looking at it is you go, oh, you know what? I understand like what they were trying to do here. I understand how they were trying to keep excitement alive and getting us more interested in Dragon Ball Super, while also probably setting the stage for other things to come in the future, like the Tournament of Power. But with that, I just think that not the best arc, but Trunks having some awesome fights, new transformation, all that other stuff, like you said, the character development of Trunks as a character person, and then also Zamasu being introduced, and him being a relatively interesting villain in terms of most other Dragon Ball villains, really helps to bring this to one of the, not the strongest, definitely not in the top 5, at least for me, but one of the strongest arcs in the entire series, and that's including Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and all of Dragon Ball Super thus far. So, I mean, I think that's really all I have to say about this, man.
I would say the fact that if you think about it and look at this arc in terms of what happened, not much happened from the main cast of characters. Because look, think of it like this. Yes, we had a lot of character development for Future Trunks, for Zamasu, but in terms of Goku, Vegeta, they never had a new transformation. Yes, they dabbled with the Vegeta for a bit. We had the Kaioshins and that. Now, here's my question to you. If you could maybe cut out this arc, put it to the side, and just say that, okay, somehow they got 2 Zenos, yeah? In terms of continuity, they carried on from the Universe 6 tournament to right now, to the Tournament of Power arc, it would feel like the exact same show. And it feels like when you put it back in and you look at it from like an outside perspective, and you stand a bit far back and you're like, okay, the Trunks arc really does stick out in terms of a difference or a shift in theme. And it, as you said, it may not necessarily be the best, but what he actually did to the franchise at that moment, because it was floundering. I'm not going to lie, but Dragon Ball Super was losing my interest at that moment, and then they got Future Trunks arc. I'm like, okay, cool. You can,
fine.
You can have my body heat. I will sit my ass on this chair, bang. But yeah, that's just my fault. I think that we should appreciate this arc more than people say, and whatever their thoughts are regarding the ending or what arseballs there were, and how he was powered up, it was so necessary for the series. And look at it now. Look, let me put it like this. Honestly, if they were to just jump to the Tournament of Power, when they done Future Trunks, because there was such hype to it, I felt like the staff at Toei, the staff at Shuei, anyone who's doing Dragon Ball Super felt inclined to put their best and just do the absolute best in terms of drawing it really nicely, doing the music really nicely, and just the voice acting. I felt like the Future Trunks arc was just a evident try hard moment for every single staff that's involved in Dragon Ball to try and up their game, and that's what they did. They really upped their game, and now they can just they set the bar a little bit higher, but now once again they can take it a little bit easier, but they're still at a median level of the average quality is still higher than, let's say, what the average quality was at the Universe 6 vs Universe 7 power tournament, whatever it's called, Beerus Champa, blah blah blah. Yeah, I just think that was very necessary, and I'm just blabbering on. I got blue hair.
No, I completely understand. Like, yeah, I feel like going out of that arc, a lot of people were, before that arc, basically, a lot of people were expecting or wanting this to be a different type of show. They were thinking that the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 tournament was going to be something that would define the show. And then, while it did to some degree, it really didn't to other aspects of the, you know, what the show was. And so we wanted them to basically do more in order to get our interest. And then this was something that really put it at the next level and got a lot of people's interest. So it definitely did that, and I can definitely see why people decided to take more of a chance on it. I remember talking to people who weren't necessarily keeping up with it or had no idea that it was out, saying that Future Trunks was back, and they're like, what? Like, that's cool. Like, I want to see, like, how did Future Trunks get back? And, like, yeah, you just have to watch it. Like, you just have to watch it, but, like, it gets people's interest, and that's what they did, and that's why it's probably important that we got this particular arc. Now, like you said, so little happened for the main characters in that particular arc that you could skip it. You can literally go from the Patafu arc to all the way to or Copy Vegeta, or whatever you want to call it, all the way to Merry Hitness without watching a single episode and miss little to nothing. And maybe that says something about it, but at the same time, it was a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But with that being said, guys, please make sure, like always, to go down in the comment section below and tell us your thoughts and opinions about this particular subject. Do you think that we're on to something? Do you think that the arc was better than what we're talking about? Do you think that it was worse than what we're talking about? And for what reasons do you think that? And always, please make sure to go down to the description section below, hit that link, and give DIMIZY some support, because he definitely deserves it. And like always, please make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Share it out to all your friends, and I hope everyone is having a good day. But with that being said, bye.
Bye.